Young Adult Podcast.
Welcome to podcast 144, everybody.
Woo!
Here we are, and we have upgraded our camera.
That's right. So, if you're watching on YouTube,
Yes.
hopefully you noticed.
It looks much better. We've upgraded to a 4K digital camera.
Oh, yeah.
And what were we using before this, you might ask? An iPad.
An iPad.
Because we could afford it.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that we found this camera.
I was going to say,
this was free.
When we say upgraded, we mean that we found this 4K camera.
Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, let's try it. Let's plug it in. So
We found a 4K camera. We found the tripod that goes with it.
That's
we found
right.
the power cable.
yeah.
We also found other little instruments that attach into it.
Yep.
And then it didn't end there because we found an SD card that fits this
That
camera.
fits the camera.
Everything was absolutely free.
So I hope you guys are enjoying it.
I hope you love it. If this doesn't 100 times our amount of views on YouTube, then I'm a
You're going to go on strike?
what?
You're going to go on strike?
Yes.
All right.
I will strike till Tuesday next week when we record again.
When we do our next one.
That's right.
I like it. Well, welcome back, everybody. If you're brand new to our podcast, I'm Pastor Aaron. This is Pastor Luke.
Yes, we do a terrible job at introducing ourselves to the audience. We need to do a much better job.
We do need to do a much better job.
Tell them more about yourself, Pastor Aaron.
Well, I'm the youth pastor here at Cornerstone. I've been a youth pastor here. This is crazy. Me and my wife were talking about this last week. This is going into my 5th year of being the youth pastor here.
You started at the worst time possible,
I started 2020.
January 2020.
January 2020.
Little did we know, 2.5 months later.
I would have zero in-person, no church. We didn't have any church. There was no in-person church at all.
I know.
So that was crazy.
It's not a way to grow the youth ministry.
No, but it's growing now.
Praise the Lord.
Our youth ministry is actually doing really well.
Praise the Lord.
And we're growing consistently, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm the executive pastor at Cornerstone Church in Highland, Michigan. Lucas Forstoff. Find me at L Forstoff. That's my social media handle, really everywhere. At L Forstoff.
Yeah.
Find you at
At Aaron Malmquist.
that's right. Find our YouTube. You just do youtube.com/@CY&YA.
That's right.
Yeah,
Stands for Cornerstone Youth and Young Adults.
that's right. CY and YA. Cornerstone Youth and Young Adults.
I have some of our high schoolers that watch, and they're like, "Why is your YouTube channel CYNYA?" So
Are they okay after you explain to them?
Yeah. They're like, oh, okay. But at first, they're like, "Why isn't it just like at Ignited Official like all the rest of our social media or something like that?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's both. It's our youth and it's our young adults. So
Yeah, it's true. How are the sports world? Oh, I mean, we should acknowledge this a little bit because on last week's podcast, I said I want the Eagles to win, but the Chiefs are going to win.
yes, and I agreed with you.
Yeah,
I thought the exact same thing.
but the Lord is so good, Pastor Aaron. He has heard our prayer. He heard our prayer.
That's right. And not only did the Eagles beat the Chiefs, but the Chiefs looked terrible.
Oh, they look so bad. Sad Travis
Sad Trav.
is my favorite Travis.
It was great.
At one point, I was so excited. I griddied across my living room.
You did. I was there.
It was the Cooper DeJean pick 6.
Oh, yeah.
I was freaking out. I started griddying. It was one of the most fun football games I've ever watched.
Oh, yeah. It was good. What was the best part of watching? If I was watching that game by myself, it might have been a little lame.
Yes.
But watching it with the Super Bowl party, surrounded by friends, watching this game, all of us just not so much cheering for the Eagles to win, but more for the Chiefs to lose.
Oh, yes. Oh,
And
you know what? I know an Eagles fan.
yeah.
So annoying. This guy
Okay.
is so annoying. His other areas of his life are great.
Okay. Yeah.
But his fandom is the most annoying.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to choose to root for the Eagles. But when you really don't like a team as much as the Chiefs,
Yeah.
it actually was.
It was great.
Fun. It was great.
It was great.
It was great.
One of my favorite parts of that watch party we had was when, I'm not sure who said it first, but that first time that Travis came on the screen and he looked all sad, and somebody said "Sad Trav."
I said "Sad Trav."
Then all night, every time they showed him,
Oh my gosh.
"Sad Trav." That was my favorite part.
Speaking of sad, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow.
That's true. That's not sad though. That's exciting.
You're right, but
Unless maybe you're single and
Yeah.
you're wishing that you had a date, you know.
I would almost guess and presume, which it's never good to presume or assume, that most people's energy tomorrow, with it being Valentine's Day, is either happy or sad.
Yeah.
That tends to be the vibe. So speaking of sad,
Yeah.
but we do want to talk about love today.
That's right. We do. We want to talk about love. We want to talk about, well, you had something you were going to bring up. I'm not sure. You kind of kept me in the dark a little bit about it.
Well, I think I do this on purpose because I think
Yes.
it makes for better
I
natural,
agree.
organic
You get my
conversation.
real-time reaction
Yeah.
when you do this. So I'm excited. I'm not even sure where we're going to go, but we're going to talk about love. It's going to be good. I've been studying, getting ready to preach a couple different messages to our teenagers about love, about
Let's talk about relationships.
relationships, dating, and so that's what we're going to dive into.
Maybe we'll name the podcast that. Let's talk about relationships.
Let's do it. I like it.
There's 4 phases
All right.
to all relationships.
Okay.
Some are great, some are bad.
All right.
Okay, so you ready for the first phase?
I'm ready for the first phase.
Attractional phase.
All right. Yeah.
Where
That's good.
you see a person and you say, God is so good. Look what the Lord has done.
Oh, yeah.
Look what the Lord has done.
Oh, yeah.
You know that
Okay.
song?
All right. You want to hear something really funny?
Yeah.
So right when me and my wife, I don't know if we were actually even dating yet. If we were, it was very, very early on, like first couple weeks. It might have been before we're actually dating. We were kind of talking, and she came and sat next to me during a church service, though. And so
Church flirt.
and
It's the best way to just subtle flirting in church. Just sit next to somebody. Don't even have to talk. You just, hey, look, I'm sitting next to you.
Yeah, well, and I'm on staff, so we sit in the front row. So it's it's not just like you can kind of just randomly pick. Like she had to come and sit next to me in the front row.
Ah, man, she sought you out.
And I remember that I think it was you and your wife. Might have been Pastor Evan was in this conversation too. And I think Pastor Evan asked if I was really distracted during worship. And then your wife was like, no, he probably was worshiping the hardest he'd ever worshipped. And I was like, yeah, it was more that one. She was standing there next to me and I was like, praise God.
So you what stage of the relationship was this?
That
like
was
timeline.
That was like really, really early on.
So you think you were dating? That's probably why she came down and sat next to you.
It probably was like that first.
I can't imagine Dana being aggressive like that if you weren't dating.
So it might have been like that week after like I asked her out.
I wonder how she was feeling during that worship service.
I don't know, but I like that's
So you were hyped.
It was a distinct memory in my head where I was like, praise God, this beautiful girl sitting next to me.
Absolutely. Every single man who's ever had a pretty girl just sit next to them, they're just like, this is the luckiest day of my life.
Oh yeah.
And then if you're even luckier, you get to marry them. You get
That's
to marry
right.
that one. So the attractional phase, that's the first phase
Yeah.
of love, of your relationship. And I'm a big one who says there has to be attraction.
Oh yeah.
I actually, Pastor Aaron, have been asked a real question from a girl who was getting older and single and starting to worry if she really would ever meet Mr. Right.
Okay.
She sent me an email and she says there is a guy that is pursuing me that I am interested in, but I am not attracted to him at all. And what should I do? I didn't quite know what to say at the time. This was probably 12 to 15 years ago.
Okay.
This girl still hasn't married.
Okay.
And the guy that was pursuing her is still single too. So they're not even together anymore. But at the time, I honestly, Pastor Aaron, I had no idea what to say.
Yeah.
But as I'm now been married for almost 17 years and older now, I can honestly say that their attraction is important.
Yeah.
That I think you should really be attracted to the person that you are thinking about marrying and spending your rest of your life with.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, and this is, I've only been married for 3 years, but talking with lots of couples who have been married much longer, reading marriage books. I listen to lots of like pastors and stuff talking about marriage. And it's something that almost all of them bring up, you know, is that, well, yeah, you should be attracted to your spouse.
Yeah.
That definitely should be there.
And then you got the next phase.
All right. I'm excited. I don't know. I have no idea. So what's phase 2?
Well, you just entered this phase, my friend.
Okay.
This is the parental phase.
Yeah.
First comes love. Then comes marriage.
Then comes a baby in a baby carriage.
You're in the parental stage
Oh, yeah.
of relationships.
It's wild.
And must we say the song again? First comes love. Then comes marriage. Then a baby in a baby carriage.
That's
we
right.
really recommend that order.
I say there's an order to that song,
and it's
for a reason.
And it's not just because that's what the Bible says. There's other reasons too. If the Bible doesn't convince you, and if our pastors, here on the microphones in front of this camera, this brand new 4K camera can't convince you. Let me just say this. Did you know that one of the there's like 3 steps you can take in life to almost guarantee that you won't be poor? You know what those 3 steps are?
No, what are they?
Graduate high school.
Okay. Yep, I knew that one actually.
Okay. Then have children after marriage.
Okay.
And there might not even be a 3rd step. It just might be that.
That's crazy.
That statistically speaking, that if you graduate high school and then you have your children after marriage.
Yeah.
And then, I think the 3rd one was another cause of poverty is divorce.
Okay.
So stay married.
Yeah.
You will almost guarantee not to be poor.
That's insane.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And easy to do.
Right.
For some. And not easy for others. But
that's true.
That's another reason to live your life in the order of the song. It's first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in a baby carriage. And so you're in this, you've entered the parental stage of a relationship. And is it different than the attraction stage?
Oh, yeah.
What's so different?
It's way different. I think, I can't remember who told me this, but somebody told me that when you get married, you realize how selfish you are.
Yes.
And then you have kids and you realize I was still very selfish.
So yeah, marriage reveals how selfish you are. Children reveal how you're still selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now my world doesn't necessarily revolve around me. It doesn't even revolve around me and my wife, but there's a 3rd person there. And I mean, our daughter is only 5 months old, so she is literally dependent on us for everything except for the air that she breathes.
Yes. So it gets easier,
Yeah.
as the child gets older. The problems change.
Right.
But some of the things that you're going through right now at the 5-month-old stage disappear.
Yeah.
It goes away. And they can take care of themselves.
Right.
So, but your relationship with your spouse changes.
Oh, absolutely it does.
And if you're not ready for the change and prepared ahead of time for the change, it can be very difficult on your relationship.
Yeah.
When you understand that when you get home from work, your wife's attention might not be on you.
Right. Yeah.
That can be hurtful.
Yeah.
Some people have a difficult time figuring out the relationship after children. Most of the divorces happen in a interesting window. It's either the 7-year mark and the 20-year mark.
Huh.
It's when the most divorce happens. And what happens is at the 7-year mark, that's when the stress of the parental stage of relationship is at its peak.
Okay.
But the 20-year mark is a different stage of the relationship, which actually still involves your children, which is you now have an empty nest.
Yeah.
And you come home to your spouse.
Right.
And you haven't talked for 15 years.
Right.
18 years.
Yeah.
You haven't connected well. You haven't figured out how to work your relationship. And Jen and I have learned this when it comes to the parental stage and our relationship is we have to purposefully choose each other over our children.
Yeah. That's good.
That my spouse is more important than my child. Now,
Yeah.
when your child is 5 months old, it would be selfish of you and me to yell at our wife and say, "What about my dinner?"
Right. Yeah.
And only a dummy would do that.
Yeah.
But then the children get older.
Yeah.
And they can get their own drinks and make their own sandwich.
Yeah. Right.
And they learn, how to do things.
Yeah.
And Jen and I will be having a conversation on the couch together.
Yeah.
Cuddling under a blanket, talking, laughing. I'm tickling her.
Yeah.
And a kid runs in the living room. "Get me a drink." "What did you just say to us?" "Can I please have a drink?"
Yeah.
That's better, but no. If you want a drink, you can get it yourself because me and mommy are hanging out and talking right now.
Yeah.
I choose my spouse over my child. "Oh, come on, Dad, please, please." If you're thirsty, you'll get yourself a drink. "I want some, I want a juice. And I can't pour it in the cup." Well, looks like you're going to have to get yourself some water
Yeah.
from the fridge. Because all you got to do is just grab a cup and, push it
Yeah.
into the lever.
And the little thingy there.
Yeah, what that's technically the name of it, the thingy there, right? I agree. And but why am I neglecting my child? How could I? I'm neglecting my child. No, I'm not. My child is fine to get their own drink.
Yeah,
What I am doing is I'm fighting for this relationship.
Right.
And
That's good.
and I have to choose my spouse over my children. This is an important stage of every relationship, and it's learned. And you kind of grow into it, and you kind of figure it out. And you kind of get a sense, too, that some children respect those boundaries
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Right.
And other children don't quite understand the boundaries, and they need to be taught.
Yeah,
Right. But they learn.
Yeah.
And our children learn,
Yeah,
And I'll
that's
even
good.
tell my children, like we're putting them to bed.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am a married man,
Yeah.
So my wife and I, the kids are going to bed, and we talk about how we're going to go into the bedroom.
Right.
Okay? After the kids go to bed. So I will be putting my children to bed, and I will look them right dead in the eye, and I will say, "You are not allowed to get out of this bed and look for me and Mom
Yeah.
for the rest of the night." Okay.
Yeah. But that's good.
Because they don't need us.
Right.
Unless they're sick. We'll tell them that, Unless you're sick or something happens,
Yeah.
come get us. But if you're thirsty, you have to go to the bathroom, you can't sleep, you just had a nightmare, I'm not your man. And I'm not being mean. I'm not neglecting my child.
Right.
And I'm not shunning them away for the rest of the evening, too.
Yeah.
I mean, but I am telling my children, you don't come out and look for us.
Right. Yeah.
So there's just certain stages to relationship. You ready for number 3?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Survival phase.
Survival phase. Okay, I wasn't ready for that.
Survival phase. This is when you've neglected some things in the relationship,
Okay.
and it goes into survival phase. This is when your schedule's gotten out of control,
Okay.
and other people have dictated your daily routine.
Yeah.
Kids are in extracurricular clubs after school, sporting activities. They all want to go over to a friend's house. They want to have a friend come over to the house.
Yeah.
They want to go out to the trampoline park. They want to go to the beach. They want to go on vacation. And everybody and everything is just completely controlling your life to the point where all of a sudden you're in survival phase. and you can't keep this pace up.
Yeah.
And if you do keep this pace up, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to break.
Yeah.
You're going to freak out.
Yeah.
You're in survival phase. It's not like not everybody gets here.
Okay.
But most will find themselves here at some point in time.
Yeah. Okay.
Survival phase.
Yeah.
Have you felt like even with having one 5-month-old in the house with both you and Dana working a full-time job, at times it feels like you've entered survival phase?
I would say there's some hours that sometimes you're like, man, what are we doing?
Yep.
And a lot of it, I think, is just stuff that we don't know. We're trying to figure stuff out. When a situation comes up, I'm like, I've never done this before.
Yes.
I've never had to assess this situation before.
Yeah.
You know? There's a TV show that me and my wife watch on, I think it's on Netflix. It's called Outlast.
Okay. I've never seen it.
It's an interesting show. It's kind of like if you mixed the show Survivor and Alone. But the only thing is you try to outlast the other teams. But there's teams and kind of like tribes and stuff. But what's really interesting is when stuff gets really hard and the people actually have to go into like legitimate survival mode.
Okay.
You can see who is very selfish very quickly. And it's really interesting watching these dynamics of people that, don't know each other super well. They just got put on this team, and the incredible amount of even backstabbing and just self-preservation and whatever I need to do to make sure that I survive and I make it to the end, that happens in this game. And when you were talking about survival mode and, in a marriage relationship, I was like, man, I don't want to get to a point where I'm literally only thinking about how I can make it to the end.
Yes. Wow.
I want to think about how can me and my wife make it to the end together? What do we need to do to set up a successful relationship in the future? This is something that you talk to us about a lot in pre-marriage counseling, and also my parents who've been, I'm 27, so they'll be married 28 years this year.
Nice.
My dad talked to me a lot about this when Dana and I were dating and engaged, is saying no to certain things. When you realize your schedule is so busy and you're starting to go into survival mode, start saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't come over. I can't hang out. I can't do this guy's thing. I can't, I'm going to spend some time with just me and my wife today or this weekend, this evening. And I never thought that seems like it'd be so obvious.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
But then I'm in it and I'm like, oh, especially now that we have Sadie, I'm like, okay, now I have to intentionally say, hey, I can't do that.
Yes.
And I have to think about it a lot more. And that's something that I feel like I'm learning how to try to stay out of this survival time right now.
Yes. And then there's the final phase,
All right.
which is the greatest phase to step into for any relationship.
All right.
So you've progressed through these stages in life. And then if you kind of keep passing the test, and there's tests in every stage.
Yeah.
Like when you're in the attractional phase, it's quite the test of purity.
Yeah, it is.
And then the parental stage, and then the survival stage. And then you can finally hit the greatest one, which is the missional stage.
Okay.
Which is, it feels like you and your spouse are working together to accomplish a wonderful mission.
Come on.
A wonderful purpose.
Yeah.
Living out a great vision.
Come on.
That begins to help others. An example for others. Your influence grows. You peak, so to speak.
Right.
In your knowledge. You peak. You're at a great point in life with knowledge, energy, health, wisdom, influence.
Yeah.
You're kind of starting to peak. It's a missional stage. Now I would say that me and my wife, not really there, but working towards it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful prize.
Yeah.
To reach this point. There are amazing men and women of God that me and you both love and respect. I'm sure they're even different. Now, I'm sure that you have. I'm sure there's married couples out there that you will watch.
Oh yeah.
And that you like, you hope to end up like one day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've reached the missional stage.
Yeah.
And they don't even really notice it, but they're living it out.
Right.
And they're influencing so many that they don't even realize how much they're influencing. There's pastors out there who love their wife and love the church.
Yeah.
And they seem to be healthy in kind of all aspects.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, "Oh, I hope I end up like them one day."
Yeah.
They're in missional.
Yeah.
They're in the missional stage of their relationship.
Yeah. One of those couples that I think of for me is actually it's your parents. It's Pastor Tim and Pastor Rhonda. And me and my wife talk about this a lot, is that I love watching them do ministry together. I love watching them go, like when just last year, Pastor Tim was going to speak in Mexico at a Bible college. Yeah. And Pastor Rhonda went with him, and it was just his traveling companion. And when they go to Pakistan and to Egypt, and so often when they're traveling all over the world, or even just in the U.S. or going to different places to do ministry, they go together and they do ministry together. Yeah. And that's one of the things that me and my wife talk about our pastors. And so, like, man, I love that they do that together. I love that they travel the world together, that they to do ministry together, to go to these conferences, these Bible colleges, these orphanages, these schools, like all the places that they get to go, and like just to watch them go out and do that ministry together. It's so inspiring. It's like, man, I want to be able to be like that one day.
Yes. And my parents are wonderful examples. And there's other amazing couples out there too. We can end the podcast with this bit of information. Maybe you were raised in like a broken home. Yeah. That didn't show you how to manage these different stages well. Yeah. That's okay. You are fine. You can learn them. Yeah. Absolutely. And I will just say this just to give this advice to anybody out there who's listening, who wants, a great life and a great marriage. Well, find a couple that you love and respect and is doing really well. Yeah. Hopefully you love and respect a good couple doing really well, and figure out how they managed it. Yeah. And maybe just be brave enough to ask them out to dinner one time. Yeah. Just so you can pick their brain. Yeah. And figure out, like, how are you still in love? Like, how are you still doing all this? Yeah. And there is, I don't know if I want to say secrets to their success, but there is a reason that they're successful. Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes we want one secret decision that they've made. Sure. But usually it's a lot of really simple things. Small decisions. That they've just done consistently for years. Somebody wise, and I don't know who started this, but said it wasn't the one big cut that killed me. It was 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. And I would say that's true of every relationship. It's just 1,000 cuts that never healed. Yeah. Destroys relationships. Yeah, that's good. And so figure out how these couples managed to stay in love and heal 1,000 times. Yeah, that's good. Because that's what happens. They healed 1,000 times. Yeah, come on. And so let's let's talk about relationships. We talked about relationships. We did it. We talked about it. How would you describe this podcast, Pastor Aaron? Youth pastor at Cornerstone Church. At Aaron Mulquist. It was a good one. It wasn't a hearty bowl of podcast stew. No. It was, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to describe this one. It's like a sushi. Yeah, there you go. That's sushi. Exactly what it was like. It was like different. Yeah, kind of different flavors. You got a little sushi platter. You got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah. Soy sauce. Feel good after it. Feel light. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. I like it. Yeah, me too. It's been great to be with you today, audience. So good. Catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast.